Hey, I am very late. We already have one like and one person joining us. The Kingdom of Huskaria says you're late, lol. I sure am. Hello, all newcomers. Welcome back, my fellow Aeternians. As always, it's me, Emperor AP, and today we are talking about a very serious subject. We are talking about the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Now, this is something that has been really difficult to watch over the last week or so. I really haven't commented on it. Aeternia has not put out an official statement on it, and it's simply because this is such a tense moment where we didn't know exactly what was going to happen for a long time. Experts in the US were really, really trying to prep things and say, hey, we think there's going to be this full scale invasion, but we don't fully know. Biden's putting sanctions, but the sanctions aren't really doing anything. They said for the past week or so that sanctions were supposed to deter Russia from doing this, but then now that Russia actually has fully invaded, they're saying, oh well, the sanctions were never supposed to actually deter anything. They're just supposed to put pressure or whatever. The sanctions weren't actually going to stop them. It's a mess. The situation has been handled really, really poorly, and it seems like Russia is just going to be able to continue their invasion undeterred for the most part. It's good to see everybody. Um, uh, First off, I'd say everybody who's joining the stream, please remember to like it. It helps to spread it out and get other people to join the conversation with us. We want to get people from all over the world in this conversation, if at all possible, because we want to hear from people who are from Ukraine. We want to hear from people who are closer to that conflict and see how this is affecting their lives. If anybody is from, that area, anywhere around there, who can comment and kind of let us know what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, please, please talk to us. I have friends who are near Ukraine. I have friends from Ukraine who have been telling me about their families and trying to evacuate. People are getting very worried. They went from, potentially doing military campaigns near kind of the Russian border in Donetsk and Luhansk into now just straight up bombing the capital, Kiev. So it's an absolute bloodbath there. 100 something people had died just in the initial bombings. This is something that's terrible, and it seems like is a preparation for all-out war. I've been seeing a lot of people online talking about how the UN is placed in a really tough position right now because if a lot of nations gather together, if NATO gathers together and says, "Hello, we're going to," uh, Arkovia says, "Hello, this war was not provoked by Ukraine." Good point, Arkovia. It absolutely was not provoked by Ukraine. This is 100% Russian aggression. Russia trying to take over as Vladimir Putin has said, it's him trying to take back what he feels is rightfully Russian. He wants to completely rebuild the USSR, or at least a good majority of it, as his legacy to leave to Russia. And it is something that he is perfectly fine killing whoever is in his path to be able to do. This is an absolutely terrible situation that we're watching unfold, and it's something that I think a lot of people in the intelligence community and the diplomatic, world diplomatic community has known was building for a long time. But I think Putin was just looking for an opportunity, and he's pretty much found it. As well, it's been concerning that China is actually now securing and supporting Russia to some extent. They're essentially saying we're not going to say anything about this. Um, we're not going to try to prevent or speak out against this. And in fact, they have made treaties now that are declaring, that they are creating some sort of like a joint military zone where in the South China Sea and in the East primarily, they are trying to create this military pact between China and Russia to do these joint exercises, to do things that essentially allows Russia to continue its path toward, just dominating Eastern Europe and trying to take over what it claims in Eastern Europe, and as well allowing China to be able to start putting more pressure on places like Taiwan and Hong Kong and just the South China Sea in general. This is something that is an absolutely concerning moment for world history. And the UN places, groups like NATO and the UN have this question where do we engage fully and start what could be World War III, or do we sacrifice this entire country in Ukraine and just see what happens? The thing that I'm worried about is that even if they do decide that they're not going to press the Ukraine issue, even if they decide that they're not going to go in and actually support their allies in Ukraine, with the United States, with NATO, um, with the UN, even if they're not going to do what's right on a humanitarian front and try to prevent this all-out invasion to, prevent a world war, that doesn't necessarily mean that Russia won't continue to pursue its goals. And in fact, it seems like it would give even further justification. Because if they are able to pursue things and say, well, we really weren't pushed that hard against in this situation, what is to stop them from saying, well, now we're just, tying up loose ends by going into Belarus, by going into other places in that area, into these smaller states that were satellite parts of the USSR. What stops them from backing China's campaigns into Taiwan? These are into Vietnam potentially. These are very concerning situations. John Hancock says, I fear Russia may have cleared the path for World War III, which could be the last war. Agreed. It's a sincerely concerning situation. I don't think anybody has or intends to have nuclear arms on the table as a something that would be used in even a large scale war, but it's always that looming threat in the background, and it's something to be considered very seriously. As well, we have 6 viewers, 5 likes. Thank you guys for checking out, and please make sure to like. Again, we're trying to get more people into the conversation. We are trying to have people from this area who have dealt with Ukraine, who have lived in Ukraine, who have visited, to come and talk to us and share their experiences, especially anybody right now who's dealing with that. Most recently, in kind of the news talking about Ukraine, the Ukrainian government has just issued a statement saying that all people, um, all military service there has been activated to be able to try and defend against Russian aggression, and as well, um, all men aged above 18, all the way through 60, have been banned from leaving the country. So there very well could be a draft initiated very, very soon to just pull literally anybody and everybody who they can possibly grab to fight on those front lines in order to just slow Russia down. I mean, Russia has, if you've looked at some of the maps and stuff that have been shown on the news recently, there are, I think, like 130,000, something like that, Russian troops, an insane amount of Russian military force just all over the eastern side of the country. And they really, really, really want to take this place back. It's the only thing that is preventing an absolute full and complete takeover of Ukraine at this point are a few American soldiers and a few other NATO soldiers that are right there all the way on the western side of Ukraine. And even that is just not, it's seemingly enough prevention to be able to slow down or stop Vladimir Putin. He doesn't want to attack those people directly because then it's a justification for the U.S. to enter a war, for other NATO allies to enter a war. But everybody's kind of just got their guns pointed at each other right now, while Russia just beats the crap out of Ukraine, and it's a sad situation to watch because you jump in, you're in the fight, but if you don't, you're just watching people get brutalized and the absolute worst in humanity coming out right now. So we all need to be thinking about, if you're religious, praying for the people who are in Ukraine and who are suffering from this. Because sure, they're bombing military installations, and sure, they're bombing installations, but there are so many civilian casualties. There are so many places that you can see where they're bombing, apartment buildings, where they're bombing just areas inside of densely populated cities. And some people are able to escape, but most are not. Most are not able to flee the country, especially now that they do have these lockdown measures in place to prevent people from further escaping. This is scary. Federal Republics of Ohio says, hey, Me and Colombia are in our own meeting. It's good to see you, Federal Republics of Ohio. Iron Sharpness says, do you wish to put your micronation at war with Russia and Belarus? We do not. We do not engage in war, but we do heavily condemn that. We don't have the resources to engage something like that. It wouldn't be reasonable, but it is something that we are very closely watching and want to do everything we can to, at very least, speak out against. These larger countries, these NATO countries, the United States, Britain, France, all of these different, Germany, they're doing things that are strategic economic measures to try to dissuade Russia from doing what they're doing, but they're not engaging because of their own fears and concerns, certainly, that, wanting to protect their own people. But micronations can't do things because they just do not have the size, they do not have the manpower. So there are significant differences. No matter how passionately a micronation feels about this subject, unless they are there actively fighting on the front lines, they cannot help. And it's a terrible situation to watch. So the best thing that I can do as the leader of Aeternia is to speak out against this and to say, everybody who can, please support Ukraine. Please go and support non-governmental organizations that are trying to provide first aid, that are trying to provide relief, that are trying to provide food and supplies to these civilians who are caught in the middle of a conflict that they have nothing to do with, just trying to protect their homes, just trying to stay safe and escape bombs falling on their head. Um, John Hancock says, hello from New Welland. Hello, John. It's good to see you. Arcovia says, it most likely will not end with just Ukraine, nor do we believe Russia will fight alone for long. Um, I think Russia will fight alone for quite some time, but I think they'll do so up until a large pact of countries start fighting against them. Until countries start declaring war against Russia directly, I think Russia will fight alone because they don't need anybody else. They are one of the world's most predominant military powers. The U.S., of course, absolutely eclipsing them, but still a very formidable force, and they showed that, to be able to almost instantaneously take over this country and certainly to shut down its entire military seemingly overnight. Even Vladimir Putin himself says, we're demilitarizing Ukraine. You demilitarize an entire country overnight, you just destroy their military, you just prevent them from doing anything. And that's what he did. He disarmed them, and now he's going in and killing whoever he wants to take what he wants. It's horrific. And I think, sure, eventually people may step in, sure, eventually other countries may join that fight, but they're trying to join the fight by backing the Ukrainian people. Once the United States or another government says, hey, we're actually going directly into this war, then they have to acknowledge that they are fighting Russians, because now Russians are the ones in this war. It is no longer a proxy war between Russian separatists in Donetsk and Luhansk versus Ukrainians. It is actual Russian soldiers going in and fighting Ukrainians. And they have made no qualms about that. So now, if any country enters the war, they have to declare war against Russia. And if they don't, then Russia can continue to pursue its objectives. Once they do, then Russia can make claims toward China and other countries who may ally with them to join their side. And that becomes a larger issue. So everybody tried to position themselves in a way that it would be very damaging to the other side to engage in a direct war. But Vladimir Putin just called the bluff, and he just said, "Hey, we're sending Russian soldiers. 100% Russia's a part of this war now." So now everybody has to make their decision as to whether their country is as well, and most don't want to. Iron says, honestly, I would try to develop a small military in your micronation. Absolutely not. You can see what horrors militaries have in the world. You can see, certainly, they can be a preventative force for good, but most of the time, it is absolute devastation and destruction. It is the cost of human life that has nothing to do with the actual conflict itself. You can see planes actively bombing citizens, civilians in Ukraine. There is no reason for our country to create a military. Why on earth would we ever do that? It's nothing but leading to devastation and destruction, as we can see before us. I think this is a case to make against the militarization of countries and against solving our problems via direct conflict and military might. Also, we have 7 viewers, 5 likes. If you guys could like the video, it helps a lot. Again, so that we can just get other people in this conversation, talking to us, explaining, potentially from Ukraine, what is happening there. John Hancock says Putin is becoming a problem. Becoming a problem? becoming a, he was becoming a problem when he decided that he was going to uh, extend his term near indefinitely, extend his term for like 8 years or something, like a ridiculously long time that's unprecedented in the modern Russian government. That was when he was becoming a problem, when he basically outright declared himself a dictator and has the entire Russian government, begging at his feet. When he had this meeting where everybody in the Russian parliament uh, all one by one unanimously said we need to recognize and support Donetsk and Luhansk with military might if necessary, without anyone batting an eye or without anyone thinking about the civilian casualties that would be there. That's when he was a problem. Now he's just straight up a violent person. Now he's an aggressor. Now he is attacking and killing civilians in other countries without care. He is a monster. Um, Arcovia says oil, fertilizers, and agricultural industries are highly impacted on micronations. Absolutely. But again, there are plenty of things that micronations can do, which are very, very powerful to be able to speak out against these types of aggression and these types of things, because we have an international audience. We have a platform that reaches across the world, even if our economies don't, even if our militaries, quote unquote, which I don't support at all, but even if that doesn't have a far reaching effect, our voice does. You can stand up and do your part by speaking out against this, as we are now, as I am today, saying the Empire of Aeternia fully supports Ukraine and absolutely damns Russia for trying to invade a sovereign nation, one that is their neighbor, one which has in the past fully supported them and been under their protection. And now they are going out of their way to destroy and control by any means necessary. They have no honor, they have no integrity in doing that. And this isn't the Russian people. This isn't an everyday Russian. Though some may be persuaded by the propaganda. This is the government of Russia. These are the oligarchs. These are Putin's cronies. These are, the high brass military officials who are trying to move on reunifying the USSR. This is not the individual Russians. Uh, no, Megan says Vomit. I'm very confused. Old School Kids says conscription will be introduced. It certainly seems like it. If there's not an update on that already, because there could be actively while we're live some updates. In fact, I'll be checking in to see if there's any updates as we speak, but there very well could be. Like I said, the Ukrainian government has already stated that no men above the age of 18 and below the age of 60 can leave the country. They can't even evacuate. So certainly those people could be conscripted very, very soon. Arkovia says President of Ukraine has activated a draft for all males. Oh, they just did? Um, I know they prevented Ukraine draft. Starts drafting reservists. So, Arkovia, you're right. They have prevented all males, regardless of if you have any military service, from leaving the country, and they issued a draft for all reservists. So, if you have never been in the Ukrainian military before, you are not, actively drafted, but they are preparing for potentially a much larger draft. They already have pulled all of their reservists, which they just drafted, and potentially will be drafting just the entire male population. Hey, hello everybody, we're back. Start talking out against Russia, and all of a sudden your internet goes out. Isn't that crazy? Uh, Arcovia says based on the mass media in the United States, absolutely. So they have everybody. We had like 8 or 9 viewers, and then we just dropped down because the stream had some delay. Like I said, we had some issues there, but now we are back. I hope everybody jumps back in with us. So again, that draft was issued for all reservists in Ukraine. Old school kid said, "This is a sad situation. I wish this would end, but I know it probably won't." Absolutely. And that's the thing that's concerning, is that every political analyst just about said Russia does not want to mess with the United States like this. Russia does not want to push NATO like this. Russia does not want to have a full out invasion of Ukraine. They're just flexing their muscles. They're just trying to see what they can get out of a negotiation. They're just trying to test the boundaries and the waters to see what they're doing. And now they have called the bluff and they have fully moved in. So, because everybody underestimated what Russia was going to do, and because everybody thought, oh well, they're just not gonna pull the trigger, they sat back and let them do it. The United States put in again like minimal military effort. Same thing with a lot of the NATO countries, primarily focusing on sanctions, and it did not deter or prevent anything. Um, as well, because of their new and continued relationship with China, Russia's economy is pretty much going to be run and fueled by China. China's whole purpose in a lot of their economic agreements and a lot of their pacts right now is pretty much to just ensure that with all the sanctions that NATO countries create for them, that the Russian government can stay afloat and that the Russian economy can stay afloat. So now it's a situation where previously in the Cold War, China was getting, taught and kind of puppet mastered by Russia as a part of this larger Russian sphere of influence. But now it's Russia who has to knock on China's door asking for pretty much loans to be able to bankroll their government so that they can be able to withstand potentially a very long war that could, last decades in conflict potentially. This is something that China is prepared to do because that expands China's ability to, one, have a secure partner in crime, so to speak, where they can now push their aggression in toward Taiwan, into the South China Sea. And then the United States and NATO allies have to pick, well, which battle's more important there? Is Ukraine more important, or is the South China Sea more important? And I think that'll create a lot of division, a lot of confusion. And as well, that allows China and Russia to, have a pool of resources to kind of bounce between each other to protect them from the long haul, in the long haul, from a lot of these sanctions, and to hopefully try and pull them out of the umbrella of all of these sanctions. But again, that's such a diabolical thing. Um, Haskaria says, I do hope that this is solved soon, but I believe this is the christened time prophecy. Oh, end time prophecy, Christian end time prophecy. I don't think so. Every generation around the world has always said, oh, this is the end times, this is the end of the world. It's not, but it's certainly a very scary point in history, and it sucks to be living through what is now probably going to be a very pivotal moment in modern history, and something that may get a lot worse very, very quickly. So hang on to your hats, folks, because this is about to get concerning, if it hasn't already. Concerning not just in the sense of humanitarian issues, not just in the sense of, just absolute moral destruction, but in the sense that it's in your backyard. This is a larger scare. Old school kid said, from what info I have, about 50 Russian troops have died, 4 tanks, about 4 planes have been destroyed in combat so far. But imagine the Ukrainian side. If it's, 4 tanks, 4 planes, and 100 Russian soldiers, 50 Russian troops, the side of Ukraine must be absolutely devastating. Hancock says, this is the history that will be written in books 50 years from now, assuming books are still, or people are still around. But they will be, and you're right, it'll probably be ebooks, but yeah, absolutely. Unknown user said message retracted, he also poisoned his opponents, absolutely. Um, Unknown user said it's very obvious that he wants this war and is clearly shown to want it in recent times. Oh, absolutely. He just uses it, other terminology to kind of tighten up his speech. But certainly, he has been saying this in no uncertain terms. The old school kid said the Russian attacks look unplanned and unprepared. They probably thought they could take Ukraine easily. You say that, they put a lot of troops on the border. I don't think they're unplanned at all. I think they were waiting for the trigger to be pulled, and now it's kind of a small section of mass chaos. as this becomes a more prolonged and protracted war, this will be something that gets more and more strategic and more specific. But as of right now, I think they're just trying to hit targets and destroy as much as they can to cripple the Ukrainian military. Because once the Ukrainian military is crippled, all they have to do is go in and say, hey, we're taking over, hey, we're shooting people, hey, we're killing people. And then the United States and NATO allies either have to step in and directly confront Russia, or they just got it, or they just win. They're trying to make it as easy as possible to push past Ukrainian forces because then they either declare victory or they have to fight in a larger war. And it's something that if they can do it with minimal Russian casualties, they will be more prepared to handle if push comes to shove. But again, terrible situation, absolutely horrible. Could push, further into Eastern Europe. Could push, into a lot of very concerning areas. Um, Sanctimonious says, we Sanctimonians remain neutral on this matter. Remain neutral on an unprovoked invasion of a sovereign country. What? You remain neutral on that? What does that mean, Sanctimonia? You're like fine with it? Like you're fine with them taking over a country? The whole thing that micronations push for and fight for is independence and is, the ability to be sovereign and recognized, right? Well, Russia's saying, hey, countries who have been recognized for decades now are just not. We're taking them back and taking them over under the guise of protecting Russian citizens. But really, we just want it back. The if Russia gets their way and this becomes, something that they can do strategically, where they can just take over all of Ukraine and make it a part of Russian territory, there isn't a great amount of hope for people in that area able to make their own independent nations because they're under the control of another government fully and completely. It's not even that there would be a discussion about it. It is not physically possible unless you're fighting them. But as you can see, that's not working. Russia's happy to fight. Russia's happy to go in and take what it wants. So I don't think that you should remain neutral at all. Dundongo says, I think Ukraine will soon fall, probably the next to the Russian Federation. Next, probably Poland. Belarus is already a puppet state of Russia with their dictator. Agreed, but it doesn't mean Russia wouldn't roll in there and say, hey, you're mine now. And they go, okay. Denongo says, unless we put a stop to it, Russia will keep pushing forward. I'm not sure immediately. It certainly could be. But I think they would be happy to take Ukraine and then let the matter die down and not, nobody talk about it. Very similarly to with Crimea. Everybody remembers Crimea for a second, right? Oh, everybody was up in arms. There's no way they can take the whole, all of Crimea. That's ridiculous. This is going to start a world war. And then they did it, and then everybody forgot about it. And then everybody let it slide. Then we put sanctions on them for a while, but then we started rolling back the sanctions under the Trump administration. Now it's a situation where they're taken over, and I'm not blaming any particular president for Russia's actions, but now it's a situation where they have taken over a country. They are controlling and attempting to control an entire other nation, just completely erase it from the map. And if nobody steps in and actively fights them, full on confrontation, they will be able to do it, and they will be able to let people forget about it over time, and then they'll get to test the water again and see, hey, if we take Belarus, which does kind of have some sway in Russia anyway, and has some connection to Russia anyway, or hey, if we start messing with Poland over here, what happens? It may take some time before anyone actually steps in, and it may be that Ukraine just completely falls to Russia and everything goes silent before anybody steps in. Ukraine was also a birthplace of Russia, so I think it's a reason that they want Ukraine. Agree. Yeah, agree, totally. They justify it as, oh, it's a part of Russia. It's historically a part of Russia, and there should never be any separation. But their justification for that is horrible, especially because the Ukrainian people want self-preservation. They want self-determination, and Russia does not care. Old school kid said, I think Ukraine will hold them because they have the support for the war, but for Russia, it's just the oligarchs that want the war. I don't think Ukraine's going to stop Russia. You say it's just the oligarchs in Russia that want the war. Sure, but the oligarchs in Russia control Russia. That, the Russian people don't have a ton of ability to oppose the oligarchs. It's just not possible. Like, the Russian people can't just hold up a flag and say, hey, no, we're done, we're good, and that they'll stop. No, the Russian military is now fully in it. They're fully taken over. It doesn't matter at all. Ukraine will not be able to stop Russia because Ukraine is a lot smaller and less developed and less prepared for this type of thing than Russia. Immediately, overnight, Russia bombed most of Ukraine's military and have effectively shut them down. Now they're just going in and picking off the remnants. And the United States and other NATO allies are trying to like back them a little bit, and send them supplies and send them certain things, but it's all paltry. It's all so small and insignificant until someone actually steps up and tries to directly confront Russia. Also, we have 9 viewers, 7 likes. If you guys can give it a like, I would appreciate it because we want to get more people into this conversation. We want to hear from people in Ukraine, around Ukraine, to hear their thoughts about it. And the only way that we can reach them is by getting a larger audience here tonight. So thank you all very much for your support. Shravi says Russia is taking control of Chernobyl. Oh my goodness, hold up. I gotta start looking at Ukraine news. I gotta start looking at it because, oh my goodness. Russia invades Ukraine live updates. 1 minute ago, Russian forces are about 20 miles from Kiev. Biden administration tells lawmakers. Oh goodness. So they had already bombed Kiev. They have already bombed a lot of the country. Now Russian forces are just 20 miles. They're just basically about to take the capital, potentially tonight or tomorrow. Like that just may happen very, very quickly. You said you thought Ukraine could hold them back. This is about to be a 3-day war. They're about to they blitzkrieg them. They just ran them. They just ran on them. There was nothing they could do. Republics of Ohio says, yeah, they must be enjoying the radiation. Old school kid says they want the war because it will cement their power more in Russia. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Russia doesn't want the war because it'll cement their power more in Russia. And it just expands what Russia is. If the oligarchs want the war to be able to increase their power in Russia and Ukraine becomes a part of Russia, then it just means the oligarchs have more to take. And it also means that the international community either has to step up to the plate and directly fight Russia, or they back down and they say, oh, you can kind of do that. We don't like that you did it, but oh, you can kind of do it. Horrible. Denongo says, at least for now, Ukraine can't liberate itself from this unless thousands more die. Even if thousands more die, it's still not going to help Ukraine. International military intervention is the only thing that can help Ukraine now because it's been fully overrun. If somebody is sick in the hospital and their body is fully overrun with cancer, you don't say, oh, well, they could probably beat it if only, this and that. Ukraine's terminal right now. Ukraine's not doing hot. There needs to be severe external intervention to even give them a hope of survival. And it's not happening. They're not stepping in. The Biden administration is giving updates on what's happening, watching the situation as Russia just completely takes over this country and is not willing to step in. They're watching it. They're watching their allies get destroyed and get murdered in front of them and going, that sucks, doesn't it? Dang. I guess Russia could just do that, huh? We have 8 likes, 11 viewers. Again, if you guys could please like the video, it helps a lot to help spread it out to people who are around Ukraine, to people who know more about the conflict than we do and have more direct ties to it. So if you guys can please like the video, it does help a lot to spread that to other people. Thank you. We just got another like. Again, we are trying to get this to people who can tell us from their side what is happening over there in Russia and in Ukraine. Donongo says this is a European war. Whether it becomes a world war is another question. Agreed. Yeah, it's a European war, but Europe's not stepping in to protect them. The distance between places like Germany, places like Britain and France, are not that far from Ukraine. They're a distance, but comparably to like the distance across the United States, it's not far. It's not far at all. So, if there was somebody attacking New York, California wouldn't like sit by. It's because it's one country as well, but just that scale, that actual distance scale is something that's really important to think about because these are their neighbors. They can watch their neighbors getting murdered and they're not able to step in. I think it's because of how scared everybody is of what will happen if they do that this will cause a large international war, but it doesn't seem like there's another option at this point besides just letting Russia have Ukraine, and it seems like that's what the international community is doing. We have 12 likes, 12 viewers, 9 likes. Again, please like this video, guys, so we can get this out to people who are closer to the conflict, who can let us know what is happening in their neck of the woods and give us their opinions. We want to hear from people. Old School Kids has message retracted. Manu says, I confess that I'm not really sure what to think about what's happening now. To me, worst case scenario is war, and it already started. Absolutely, it's a tragedy. It's a human plight. It's horrible that this is happening. The only thing you can do is support Ukraine. The only thing you can do is say Russia should not be going in and just murdering people in a sovereign nation. It's horrible. Also, 11 likes. Thank you guys so much. So I would say, Manu, support Ukraine, support what is happening there, to try to push back against this absolutely catastrophic international incident that Russia has put on themselves completely unprovoked. Manu says, can't stay for long, gotta go bye. See you, Manu. Again, support Ukraine, try and do what you can to make people aware of this situation and how horrible it is. John says, I've always had a dislike for Russia, but that feeling has been exacerbated after such an unjust attack in Ukraine. And that's the big problem. Again, it's not like the individual Russian citizen who's going, oh, we should have taken Ukraine a long time ago. Oh, we need to kill all those Ukrainians. It's the government, it's the oligarchs, it's the people who are in power in Russia who don't allow their citizens to have much of any free speech. It's the same people who are murdering their opposition and things like that. Like somebody mentioned in the comments earlier, it's an absolute dictatorship who doesn't care what anybody else thinks and is going to continue to push other countries until they fight back. Russia's a bully right now, and they're straight up beating someone up on the playground and daring another group of kids to do something about it, and everybody's wetting their pants and won't do it. I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying war is a good thing. I'm not saying we need to start a world war. But something has to get done because once they finish with Ukraine, where are they going? What are they doing? They may back off. They may not. Sanctimonious says, we condemn the horrific actions done by the Russian Federation. We support Ukraine's right to self-determination. Hey, Sanctimonia changed their opinion. We got an entire country to reverse their decision, or to forward their decision, I should say, to support Ukraine and to condemn the Russian government. It is absolutely shameful, and it's a rough thing to watch. It's brutal. Thank you so much, Sanctimonia, for coming around on this one. It's this isn't just some like very light kind of we can make our decisions and see how things go. This is an actual conflict that is killing people in mass right now. Arcovia says, although Ukraine doesn't seem to currently be an active member of NATO, we hope to see NATO countries protecting Ukraine rather than just watch unjustified and unprovoked war continue. Absolutely. Well, and it's not like there haven't been active skirmishes that the United States has been indirectly a part of, and other NATO allies have been indirectly a part of supporting and funding in Ukraine in general. Again, if you remember Crimea, the United States sent aid to people fighting in Crimea against Russian separatists. They had, NATO allies sent a whole bunch of supplies and a whole bunch of stuff because that was the build-up to what this is now. That was the question that Putin was asking was, hey, are you guys going to do anything when we step onto their front lawn? Are you going to do anything when we plant a flag on Ukraine's front lawn? And nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. They tried to do that. They tried to, send a little bit of aid and say, hey, good luck over there. We hope you do well. But nobody actually stepped in to try and fight. And because of that, Russia did take over. They took over Crimea and they said, hey, we know where we're going next. because nobody's going to do anything. And we know they're not going to do anything because there's precedent for them not doing anything. So now all we have to do is continue to push that button and continue to push it. And he did. Vladimir Putin called the bluff, and it worked. And it's horrific to watch. That the United States, it's very similar to a thing in Afghanistan and in the Middle East, where the United States has plenty of active, supporters there, and people, and not just the United States, but many, many countries, the NATO countries, Western countries in general, have a lot of support in these countries where they are actively trying to fight off larger aggressors, where they're trying to fight off terrorist cells, where they're trying to fight off, you know, anything that limits their freedom and their independence, and they're asking for help from these larger, more powerful countries. And these countries are giving it to them, but very indirectly, so they don't have to dirty their hands. But anytime it comes to the point where these countries need to step in and need to directly protect their allies, the people who they have funded and supported and said unofficially, we have your backs, now they're not. And it's sad. It's so sad to watch. Dodonga says, I see many parallels between Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the German leader's invasion of Poland. Crimea was just like Czechoslovakia. It's getting rough like that. There's not the direct genocidal aspect comparison, but war strategy side, yeah, as well. Czechoslovakia was the test for Germany during World War II to see whether or not they were going to continue to push forward into other stuff. They already had the ambition, they already wanted to, but depending on what the large scale response to Czechoslovakia was, they were just gonna see how things played out, and if nobody stopped them, they'd keep pushing. Nobody stopped them, they kept pushing. World War II happened. Now we're in a situation where Russia's taking over Ukraine. They already took over Crimea. They already did that little push and said, "We'll see what happens." Nobody did anything. Now they're taking over Ukraine. If nobody does anything, they may just keep pushing, and there's no reason for them not to. Old School says, I wanted to say that. Never mind is the same as Germany invading Poland in 1939. They're going to collapse. It's rough. Dan says, Biden is a criminally inept so-called leader. Russia must be taken out of the SWIFT banking system. It's really difficult. Yeah, I definitely don't support what Biden's doing right now and just not actively, going out of the way to support Ukraine in a larger way. Um, but at the same time, it's a weird situation because you see on the other side of the aisle, certainly plenty of Republicans are calling out and condemning Russia and trying to convince the federal government to do more in this situation, which they absolutely should. But then you see people like Trump who are saying like, no, Putin's a genius, which just I get I get the political optics, I get the whole thing, but just don't give him any more airtime right now. Putin's garbage. Putin's absolutely garbage. Ndongo says, I noticed the victims become the aggressors. Russia is the new Germany and China is the new Japan. It's happening. Tables are turning. Scripts are flipped. Old School Kid says, this is going to be a new World War III. It certainly seems like it could. A lot of people are scared about that. Shravi says, how can I make content for Aeternia? I wrote a script for a video on the conflict in Ukraine, but it's a bit outdated since I wrote it a little over a week ago. Oh, that's a great question. You can actually email us at eternianempire@gmail.com, Shravi. I would love to. Let me see if I can comment. Can I comment? No. No, I can't. But I will type it out for you. Maybe I can do that. Let me see. Okay. Eternianempire@gmail.com, Shravi. If you can get to there and you can email us, or if you're on our Discord, you can DM me on Discord. Let me see if I can show you this. Okay. Shravi, can you read this? It's backwards, so that's not good. I wish I could invert it for you, but it is Eternian Empire, AeternianEmpire @gmail.com. If you can email that address, we can talk about creating content because I really appreciate that. Every little bit helps us to get closer to our watch time. But let's get back to Ukraine because this is crazy. Also, any information you do have on Ukraine, anything you wrote for the video helps a lot, even if it's outdated. Matt says, hello, didn't ping me in the chat that you were streaming. I'm late. It's all good. Thank you very much for hitting me up. I generally hear everybody, so anybody who's actively on the Discord, it'll notify. But yeah, sometimes it just doesn't. I need to like at everyone, but sometimes people get mad at me about that. Um, Aiden says, remember this day, 2/24/22 or 24/2/22? Absolutely. It is legitimately the start to a much bigger conflict, and it is something that's horrible. I am being a part of history right now. We all are being a part of history by witnessing this moment, but it is absolutely one of the worst times in modern history to have to witness. It is tragic. And we should all be very, very concerned about where this leads us in the future. Um, let's see. Aiden says, yeah. Oh, this will be the new September 1st, 1939. It's so concerning. Uh, Ohio says, I know the FRO is usually neutral in affairs, but this is an unjust attack. Ohio cannot be neutral in this. We have sided with Ukraine. Thank you, Ohio. This is absolutely a travesty that is occurring right now. Donongo says it sure will. FRO says, I already posted a video of me making it official. Good to hear. This is, again, an absolute tragedy. I think most micronations are speaking out against Ukraine. It is rough. Old School Kid says Ukraine will get overrun like Poland in World War II. I get that. This is, there are a lot of parallels that you can draw, but this is just something that's an absolute ransacking of an independent country for the purpose of just greed, just trying to see how far Putin can push. And it's not even, Putin wants Ukraine for sure, but I think it's more so to send a message that Russia can do really crazy stuff and that nobody's going to do anything about it. That when push comes to shove, nobody actually wants to fight Russia. Hancock says, I personally sided with Ukraine, but I feel I'm unable to speak for all the new Welland people, seeing as I don't know what they all think. Ask them. Talk to them about the situation. Send them to this live. Let them, check this out for themselves because this is an absolutely terrible situation. We're going to be talking about it tonight. Aiden says, history is repeating again in a different style. Yes, absolutely, Aiden. Well said. Dan says the Imperial Principality of Marina condemns Russia for this unprovoked attack against Ukraine. The Imperial Principality of Marina supports the Ukrainian people. Absolutely. And for anybody who's in Ukraine, for anybody who's watching this, who's near or has family there, know that most of the micronational community has your back. This is a horrible time to be somebody from Ukraine, and this is an absolutely terrible situation that the world is having to watch Ukraine suffer through right now. Even though we are a part of countries who want to assist, even though we are a part of places who are onlooking like everyone else, know that we are sympathetic, know that we want to do more, and we urge our macronational counterparts to do more, but sometimes they do not listen. It's tragic. It really, really is. And for everybody who's a micronationalist, who wants self-determination, who wants independence, and wants to see that for other people, this is a slap in the face because they're having to watch an entire country, one that has been recognized by the United Nations, one that has been a part of world politics for decades, have it stolen right from under them. To have a population in the millions to have a population in the millions and to be told that you are not a country anymore, that somebody else is just going to be able to absorb you and take away your rights and your freedoms is absolutely one of the nightmare scenarios of a micronationalist. It's a shame. Old School Kid says, I'm not going to say that I agree with a dictatorship because I don't. I'm strictly democratic, but I hate the fact that we can't help of how long it takes to make new actions. Agreed. Well, and that's the point that's really difficult here, is that a lot of macronations don't want to step in because there are too many cards at play. The Russian Federation has the ability to swoop in and do this because all Vladimir Putin has to do is say he's down and everybody else is going to go. Everybody's going to race after him into Ukraine because they want to be the ones on his good side. And that is what we are watching unfold here. Democratic countries do not have the same ability. Of course, Biden could write an executive order that throws us into a war with Ukraine, but it would have tremendously negative consequences for him as a politician, for the potential losses that would be incurred by the United States, not only economically but militarily, civilians. This is something that could be a big conflict that absolutely no one is prepared for, and yet may be the only reasonable option. It's scary. Dan says we must not forget that Nazi Germany and Russian Soviet Union invaded Poland together. We must not forget that. Nananga says unless President Biden sends troops to Ukraine without a sorry, I'm reading comments, everybody. Nananga says unless President Biden sends troops to Ukraine without a declaration of war, I do not see any way Ukraine will be liberated. It will probably be a period of at least 5 years where they are not free. Agreed. And if it's 5 years, there's no reason for Russia to ever give it back. Once it's taken and once everything's said and done, Russia does not have to give it back. There's no reason. The longer that they are there, the longer that they can cement their presence, the harder it will be for anybody to justify getting it back because it would have to be an overthrow at that point. At that point, they become the new norm. They become the new standard, and they can put a lot of Russian citizens there. So they can say, well, the population of Ukraine used to be like 20 to 30% Russian speakers or something like that, maybe even higher. Now it's 40 or 50% 5 years later, 10 years later. So then it's the norm. Then there are Russian government officials, there are Russian oligarchs and their families who live there, Russian politicians, Russian entire infrastructure, large scale businesses that would be there. Why on earth would they ever justify leaving? In fact, it would be hard for any other country to justify overthrowing them and installing a Ukrainian government again because it would be seen from their side as the same thing that they are doing now. It's incredibly hypocritical, it's incredibly rough to watch, but in order to make an effect and prevent this travesty from happening, have to act while it's ongoing. You can't watch a murder be committed and then like 5 or 10 years later go, hey, isn't it messed up that person killed a guy? Didn't I remember I saw him kill a guy, but I didn't really think it was important at the time. I didn't want to really step in and deal with it when it was happening because I'm not getting involved with that. That sucks. What am I going to get stabbed or something? I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it kind of rings a bell at some point that guy stabbed somebody at one point. It's like, oh, well, what were the details? How can we do something? Well, now everything's kind of fuzzy, and I don't really remember his face too well, and his clothes. He was wearing kind of some blue, some brown clothes. You lose all credibility and justification. You have to be able to act in that moment to protect those Ukrainian people. And the international community is being a bystander right now. It's really sad. We have 11 viewers, 11 likes. Thank you all so much for paying attention, hanging out with us, and watching this piece of world history unfold in the most devastating way live with us. Again, if you guys can like, thank you very much. We have 13 likes. We're trying to get this to reach the other side of the world. We are trying to get people who are near the conflict, who are in Europe, specifically in Eastern Europe, even more specifically, if you are anywhere near Russia, Ukraine, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what is happening. Keep us updated because this is an absolute travesty to watch, and the Aeternian community is certainly shaken by this, as well as the international, micronational community. Aiden says, I'm watching Ukrainian war footage. Yeah, it's rough. This is actively ongoing. It feels like a dream. Nightmare. Dan says, after seeing the extremely horrible and weak exit from Afghanistan by us, Putin saw how weak we looked and has now taken advantage of the situation. I certainly think that's the case, but as well, he had justification from Crimea. Again, we were upset by Crimea. We put sanctions on him for Crimea in the same way that we're doing now, and we eventually took him away. We eventually lightened them. We eventually made it to where everyone pretty much forgot about it. The news cycle moved on. People stopped talking about it, even though Crimea was not theirs to begin with. They stood on Russia's front lawn and planted a flag and said, do something about it, and nobody did. And now they have a larger justification. Old School Kid says, man, I wish that the U.S. could do better diplomacy, but diplomacy probably won't work with the current situation, so I think we should move more troops into Ukraine. Again, that's a really tough situation, though. Nobody wants war. Nobody wants larger conflict. it's going to be really hard for any individual country to justify going into Ukraine and directly fighting the Russians. It is the guarantee for a larger full-out world war. Doing that for any country, if any of the United States allies in NATO actually do declare war against Russia, then pretty much all of NATO is in some way or another going to have to declare war against Russia. It seems like it's tipping closer and closer to that point on the European side, but still everybody's trying to do anything they can to prevent having to do that, and Russia is trying to speed through this campaign to take over Ukraine so that way they don't have the opportunity, that they don't give any further justification for it. They've already been in the middle of the attack, they're already in the middle of the war, and nobody has done it thus far. So as long as they don't escalate anything by any degree, as long as they're not killing US soldiers, as long as they're not killing NATO soldiers, they can just pretty much sweep and push everybody out as fast as they can and say, oh, we took over, oh, it's fine, oh, we're shutting this down, oh, it's not a big deal, forget about it, forget about it, forget about it, forget about it, until they just have what they want. Um, Haskari, so it is a lot of, even if everybody did declare war, it's still a lot of diplomacy, and it's so hard to justify that war, justify trying to enter it by any one country, but it certainly may become necessary very soon, and if it hasn't already. Haskaria says Haskaria doesn't recognize the Russian Federation. Aeternia condemns the Russian Federation. This is sad to watch. Old School Kid says, but I never see war, but I see war as a last option. But we've been driven out of options. Absolutely. It seems like those options are narrowing until the point where it's in our neighbor's backyard, until it's to the point where, places like Germany are starting to have Russian troops getting closer and closer to there. Poland has troops right now, Russian troops that are getting closer and closer because they're already in the heart of Ukraine. Old School Kid says, I personally don't recognize the Russian Federation. I only recognize the 1917 Democratic Russian government. Makes sense. FRO says, what about the Russian Empire? It's a micronation. A Russian billionaire bought some land in Africa and is making a country there. That sounds really bad and gross. That's shameful. Again, why take land from other people who have it and who need it to satisfy your own your own claims for independence or whatever? If he's a billionaire, why can't they just build boats and make a micronation out of that? If he's a billionaire, why can't he invest in space travel to do that? Why can't they you do almost anything else? Why go into Africa and take land from people who need it? Daniel Maloney says, CR Columbia supports Ukraine. Thank you, Daniel. MC Sorrow says, hello, it's TJ. Hey, TJ, how are you? Windingo says a lot of stuff in Russian and then says, indeed, yes. Windingo, how are you? Are you anywhere near the fighting in Ukraine? Are you in Russia? Tell us a little bit about your background and what your thoughts are. Because I'm really confused by this situation, and I think we're all just kind of bracing, watching the horror of this, and we want to learn more. So Windingo, please let us know. MC Sorrow says, our Sabotat. Rich says, I have a few words. The current situation is that NATO countries are sending supplies to Poland over the air. In my eyes, if the conflict continues, there could be a second Russian civil war. Why do you say a second Russian civil war? That's interesting, because right now it seems like they're pretty united in taking over Ukraine. Old School Kid says, I never thought I would see a world war in my lifetime, but here I am. It's certainly close. Again, we may not hit world war if everybody just lets them take over Ukraine, but it's feeling like that. Certainly. MC Sorrow says, very eventful week. Oh, absolutely. MC Sorrow says, USA isn't going to war, so it isn't World War. Agreed. Agreed. I think the United States is going to try and wait as long as they possibly can to do that, but I think that's not uncommon. I think that's with all the NATO allies. I think that's with people who are a lot closer to the fighting than the United States. So it's just such a tough diplomatic decision to make. Any intervention by NATO allies is going to make it a much larger conflict that potentially China may get into, but it's feeling close. Old School Kid says every second is just adding onto the pile of gasoline. Agreed. Every single Russian citizen that dies, every single NATO ally that is putting troops there that are having Russian soldiers get closer and closer to their positions. If anything slips up, if any NATO allied soldiers start dying, it's gonna be a problem. Uh, Rich does. The goal is to reestablish the Russian Empire. Cutting off oil trade to the Russian Federation allows us to make sure that they have to waste their own fuel on advances into Ukraine. Agreed. That's why the stop of the Nord 2 pipeline was such a Nord Stream 2 pipeline was such a big deal. Germany, for a long time, refused to stop production of the Nord Stream 2, which is a huge pipeline in Europe going from Russia to Poland. Uh, Russia to, it might be direct, no, it's Russia direct to Germany. That is a way for Germany to buy a lot of oil and natural gas from Russia. But Germany has a huge dependence on oil and natural gas, which it doesn't have a lot of um, reserves of itself. So that being the case, this Nord Stream 2 pipeline that's actively, under development until recently was a huge controversial thing because Germany did not want to stop that. They need that oil and natural gas, but eventually they did cave after seeing these attacks on Ukraine, after, seeing that pressure mount. They eventually said, "Hey, we're going to halt this until you stop these attacks." So everybody's trying to do what they can to cut off Russia's economy, but China's now backing them, and China's saying, "Hey, we'll buy your stuff and we'll fund your economy. It's fine." So it looks like they have justification to push in, and they're gonna keep doing it. Rich says over half the world is currently in some way cutting off trade to Russia to stop the war machine, but it's continuing. When Dingo says Russia and then puts up an arm, ooh, are you supportive of Russia, Wendigo? Can you tell us more? Because again, I'm very ooh. So, if you're in Russia, are you supportive of what Russia is doing right now to Ukraine? Have you seen some of the footage? It's very concerning to everybody in the West, certainly. I just want to learn more about your position because, seeing it from the inside must be strange. Everybody on the outside is watching all this death and destruction, but to be somebody who's inside of Russia, I'm concerned. I hope you're okay. I hope everything's okay, but oh my gosh, your country's killing people, like a lot of people, very purposefully. Old School Kid says oil is a massive thing that matters, so if we could cut them off, that would give us lots of leverage to power. Not if China backs them. Everybody's shutting off their oil, but not not China, not a lot of Russia's allies. They're just not. Rich says a plane was shot down over Kiev. Uh, it exploded and damaged an apartment building. It may collapse. From photos, it looked empty. Hopefully, people have been evacuated from those areas, but there have been civilian areas, densely populated civilian areas, which have been hit. It's very scary. Rich is not sure. Says Crimea was technically transferred back to Ukraine with the USSR to Ukraine within the USSR through a territorial amendment. So they technically ceded it willingly. But again, it just by force. Russia first went in there by force, so it's really gross and seedy. Um, Wendingo, if somebody can translate Wendingo's messages, I would really appreciate it because I don't have the ability to throw that into Google Translate right now just because I'm actively streaming. But if somebody can let us know what they're saying, please let me know. I see the Russian flag. MC Sorrow says Putin is. Or Wendigo, if you can understand me, can you translate through Google Translate or something uh, your your comments into English? I just want to learn your position, want to understand. MC Sorrow says Putin is trying to get more after he already said this. Yes, he's trying to actively push further. Old School Kid says we have a Russian nationalist in chat. It does seem like that. Yeah, and again, I'm trying to see what they're saying. Um, Rich says the Crimean referendum to join the Russian Federation was spiked by the Russians to lean toward Russian exception. It's rough, man. It's a rough situation. TJ says he wants to get more of Europe. Agreed. Rich says, indeed, we do. Old School Kid says, Russia's trying to invade Europe without a war with the US. I doubt that could do that. Agreed. But at the same time, if they step on people's toes and then they wait for everybody to do anything and people get mad like they're about to attack, but then they don't, then things will calm down, they'll relax, and then Russia has a little more power and a little more wiggle room, and then they can kind of flex it again and see how far they can get, see how much they can push the bounds until people eventually do. But by that time, it could be decades, and Russia could be a lot stronger. It's good as well for China because China doesn't have to dirty their hands. All they have to do is support Russia now, and then Russia will support them when they do things in Taiwan. Russia being stronger with the involvement of Ukraine, with the um, absolute annexation of Ukraine, would be in a position to more easily fight with Europe, and to be able to say now it's even harder for you to get resources like oil and natural gas. China already has a lot of deals within Africa, within the Middle East, which have bound those economies pretty tightly to China. So uh, it could pretty much be Europe and the United States, very small pockets of Asia versus Russia and China economically. And right now, the scales are in Europe and the US's favor, but not for long. They're starting to tip those scales, and I think this push by Russia is really the test to see, are they going to fight for it? Is the West going to fight for that supremacy, or are they going to stand back and let Russia and China have it, at least economically? Um, TJ says the Russian people are very strongly against the war. Only the Russian government is waiting to do it. I think that's the consensus that most people have, but we do have some Russian nationalists, it seems, in the chat, and I want to see what their things are. Rich says the reason for a Russian civil war is due to the fact that the last time they engaged in large-scale conflict, the Soviet Union came into being thorough instability. Agreed, but at the same time, that was because of all these satellite states that started rising up and pushing back. But now it's a situation where Russia, as the Russian Federation, is very united and is starting to take back over their satellite states. So it seems like they're in an upswing, and it doesn't seem like they would have much ability to separate when, all of Ukraine's infrastructure is bombed. Um, Federal Republic of Ohio says over 150 Russian senior officials have signed a letter condemning the invasion by Putin. Ooh, very nice. I would actually love to see that. That's crazy. Rich says that could also contribute to discontent. The Communist Party in Russia is the second largest and could launch an intervention. Ooh, this is getting interesting. I would love to see that. I would love to see that kind of back and forth internal to Russia. So, yeah, you're very right. It could spark something, but it seems like Russia has a pretty tight hold right now. I don't know. It would be a crazy turn of events if Russia turned on itself, but I don't know that that's a super huge possibility right now. Dan says there are massive demonstrations going on right now against the war. Hey, very nice. Okay. So at least there are some people in Russia who recognize how much of a travesty this is. Again, I think that's the majority of Russians, but this government just pushes without stop and is going to pile drive anybody in their way. Will the Russian people stand up and fight against it? It seems like they already are, but to what extent will that have an effect? Will the Russian government stamp down against its own people as well as foreign adversaries, as they might like to view them? Old School Kids says the civil war in Russia can only happen if one person at the top disagrees. I would say so. Um, Ohio says the entire city of St. Petersburg is in deadlock with massive protests in the city. And I think Putin's just waiting for it to die down. All he has to do is just if everybody's really mad at him right now, all he has to do is just push through, bulldoze Ukraine, absorb it, and then eventually the protests will die down. Once nothing else is going on, eventually things will start to come back into the fold, and he'll be able to focus more internally, and he'll be able to do things that kind of try and calm it down. But we will see. Old School Kid says you stop a revolution if you have the army, but if one commander stops being loyal, then that's a problem. Agreed. It's a big issue. Wendigo says I support Russia fighting against the EU. War is always bad, but it has to happen. Ooh, interesting. Thank you for translating your comment, Wendigo. So is that what you see it as? Do you see Russia fighting the European Union? Like, because right now they're fighting specifically Ukraine, right? Like there has been no declaration of war between any other countries in the European Union and Ukraine. It's just Ukraine and Russia right now, correct? And if so, would you support? So you actively would support not only an invasion of Ukraine, but a total all-out war with all of the European Union? And if so, why do you feel like this is justified? You say, I support Russia fighting against the EU. War is bad, but it has to happen. If Russia is the aggressor in this situation, why does this have to happen? I'm curious to see the internal perspective. Um, Rich says true old school kid because it starts with one. Um, John Hancock says Windingo says Russia owns Ukraine. Gotcha. So it's from the perspective that this is Russia reclaiming territory, Wendigo. I'm curious. Old school says if the people don't back you, that's fine. You can deal with that. It might stress the army, but it's possible. But if one person at the top becomes dissatisfied or disloyal, then that's what becomes a problem. Agreed. Rich says Russia is a large collection of states that range from basically independent regions to centralized. So the communist part was what I meant by civil war. It's just because they're so large compared to the conglomerate of ruling parties. I get that. One also, the Russian political scene is certainly more complex than we have in the U.S., where there's pretty much two dominant political parties. In Russia, there are certainly other political parties that have say and influence, but at the same time, Vladimir Putin's got the biggest hand there. Again, killing political opponents in the past. Absolutely kind of bulldozing the things that are in his way to get what he wants. It's tough to see. Rich says it's just because they're so large. Yep. Old school says Putin's government has to balance this situation very carefully. Agreed, but it seems like a lot of his top supporters have already signed off on it. So with that show of force that he did by declaring Donetsk and Luhansk as independent, it seems like he's kind of got his cronies in a row there. Putin says, Ritrack says Putin's head. Oh goodness, if Putin was in the comments, insane. Ritrack says Putin's heads it, but it's still the division. But still, the divisions are there. The centralized power structure of the Russian Federation is a sham in some senses. It's there, but not totally. I get that. Old School says it could easily collapse if the U.S. and allies join. Agreed. The invasion could be stopped if all of the U.S. and NATO actually push in and fight, but I don't think that's going to happen at all because it is this tense conflict where nobody actually wants to fully stick their neck out. But Russia already has. Russia's already put um, formally affirmed that they are taking over Ukraine, and nobody else is willing to do the same, to step in and say, well, we're fighting against you. Also, 11 viewers, 13 likes. If you guys can like for anybody who jumped in and hasn't, it helps to spread it out. It helps us to get to more viewers like Windingo, who's actively commenting to us in the comments as somebody in Russia who's pro Russia's side of this. And I want to learn more about their opinion and other people's opinion because this is, who are near this conflict, because this is absolutely insane from an outside perspective. How could you possibly support Russia in this? This is crazy. But I do want to learn. I want to learn more about your opinion, Wendigo, and everybody else who's near that area. Um, FRO says St. Petersburg and Moscow Stock Exchange, the main economy of Russia, are dead in the war. Interesting. Rich says true as well. Wendigo says yes, Russia is reclaiming territory and also fighting the EU. Gotcha. In kind of like a proxy war sort of way. I get that. It's definitely like an ideological war between the U.S. and NATO allies and Russia, kind of seeing who can push the boundary more from one or the other. But it seems like Russia's just stepped in and said fully, we're directly connected to this conflict now, whereas the EU and NATO allies have not fully. They're just kind of letting the Ukrainians take it and not doing anything. FRO says $1 in USD equals 85 and a half rubles. Interesting. Rich says things are stagnating and dying over there. Yeah, it's really bad. Agreed. Again, they've crippled the Ukrainian military, so now they're just going in and hitting these civilian populations and just sweeping and taking over with their actual ground troops. Again, 20 miles from Kiev, probably closing in as we speak. Old School Kid says the Russian economy is doing bad, and if it goes bad, that means they can't get taxes for the army. Agreed, but that's why they're trying to do this so fast, is because if they can just sweep through Ukraine and take it over, then they can kind of try and calm down the fires at home, but they have to be able to sweep and take it over fully in order for that to happen. If this becomes a prolonged war, this is something that Putin cannot afford to bankroll. That's also why he's really leaning on China to try and help out the Russian economy in the meantime. Because if he can fully commit to this and fully take over Ukraine, then there is a shot that he can get everybody mad at him right now, but then quickly die it down. Um, Old School Kid says the Russian economy is doing bad. Yeah. Aiden says in the future, $1 is probably going to be 200 rubles or more potentially. But you never know with U.S. inflation as well. Old School Kid says it's just a matter of time until the economy collapses, and if it does, a civil war is guaranteed. Agreed, but how long will this war in Ukraine last is the question. If this is only going to last a week, the Russian economy is not going to collapse in a week. People will hardly feel the effects for the first few months. So if Russia can do it quick enough and can prevent U.S. and NATO allies from jumping in and directly intervening, they can get it. It's entirely possible. FRO says Russia has threatened to use the Tsar Bomba if other nations get involved. Have they? Have they really? Did they say they're gonna use a nuke? Did Russia really say they're gonna use a nuke? Hold up. No, did they? Did they actually? Is that like a? I'm fact checking that. Hold up. Did Russia say they're gonna threaten other countries with nukes right now? Is that for real? Is that a real thing that happened? Old School Kid says so. If the war ends fast enough, the economy will grow up and will prevent a civil war. Yep, absolutely. John Hancock says that is concerning. That's very concerning. Again, because right now they're just blitzkrieging. They're able to sweep through real fast and get what they want. Um, oh gosh, I'm trying to get my computer to start up right now because I want to see if that's true. Um, oh, okay. Again, it's still loading. It's still setting up. Hey, we have somebody else speaking some Slavic language. I assume it's Russian. It's good to see you. Let us know your thoughts. And again, if someone can translate, or if they can, um, or if you yourself, if you speak English, or if you can use a translator to help, it would mean a lot. I don't speak Russian or any other Slavic language, so you'll have to excuse me for not being able to interpret myself. Risharak says, I'm going to admit I'm sort of hoping for a Russian civil war because it's not good, and a return of Neo-Russian Empire would suck for the globe and upset the status quo globally. Agreed, but I'm sure that's the exact opposite of what the Russian Federation says. Oh, well, we're finally getting our chance on top again. It's a rough situation. Let me see. Okay, so okay. Well, right now I'm having to reconnect to the internet. Excuse me, everybody. But this is a crazy situation. We now have a couple people as well from Russia in the chat. Oh, there we go. John Hancock says, I believe he says Russia is fighting for a just cause. Tell us why you think that. Again, please just explain. I want to learn more about what the position is from from Russians in Russia. Because again, from an external perspective, this seems absolutely wild how fast everything has developed and how brutal the fighting has become in such a short period of time. Old School says, but a better opinion would be diplomacy, but it won't happen. Aiden says, if there's a second civil war, it's going to have three sides: the Federation, the Soviets, and the Tsars. Interesting. This is a great question. Um, where did you see the thing? Whoever said that, Where did you see where Vladimir Putin said that he would use the Tsar Bomba? Because uh, I'm very curious about that. Um, ooh, this person says Russia is fighting the Antichrist New World Order in the European Union. Interesting. Uh, so it's crazy to think that both sides of this conflict are primarily Christian, right? And they, just like other people in the comments were saying, oh, this is going to be the end times. This is the end of the world. This is, the fight against, good versus evil. But everybody says that their side is the good versus the evil. It's crazy to watch that, especially from the same religion, using the same religious contexts and narratives to support their side. Absolutely wild. Uh, Again, I'm going back to Ukraine stuff to watch Ukraine updates. Um, okay, 52 minutes ago from Politico, Russian forces converge on Ukraine's capital. Let's see. Um, Kiev was under bombardment in the pre-dawn hours of Friday morning, with Biden administration officials telling lawmakers the city is being encircled by Russian troops. Um, Russian ground forces are converging on Kiev in a pincer move, with armored columns approaching from north of the city on either side of the Dnipro River as cruise missiles were launched against the capital overnight. The new threat comes as the U.S. issues a fresh warning that Moscow's ultimate goal is, quote, decapitating the government and establishing a Russian-backed government in Ukraine's capital. Kiev, the capital city of 3 million people, is at the center of an offensive by Russian troops. Biden administration officials told U.S. lawmakers on Thursday night as the war in Ukraine entered its second full day. U.S. officials couldn't put a timeline on when Kiev might fall. In the pre-dawn hours in Kiev, large explosions were heard, suspected to be Russian aerial bombardment. Tens of thousands of citizens have fled the capital, snarling traffic on main roads for miles, while others have hunkered down in subway stations for protection against shelling. It's already a bloody war, Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko uh, said on Good Morning Britain Thursday, adding that he would take up arms to defend his city. I don't have another choice. I have to do that. I would fight, he says. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in late night address to his nation, said more than 130 Ukrainians died in the first full day of fighting, while the country's defense ministry estimated that 800 Russian troops were lost. Oh wow, that's crazy. In response to Russia's advances, he ordered full military mobilization and banned adult men from leaving the country. Russian President Vladimir Putin declared a special military operation war in a televised address broadcast early Wednesday morning, Moscow time. A large-scale invasion followed shortly after multiple fronts, with missile bombardment of airport military facilities across the country and strikes on weapons depots, followed by tanks and heavy armor rolling in from Belarus, Crimea, and from Russian border positions along Ukraine's northeast. The British Ministry of Defense said Russia didn't achieve its first day military objectives, namely because they met such stiff resistance from Ukrainian fighters. Analysts noted that the Kremlin's forces struggled in the areas surrounding Kiev and Kharkiv, but had an easier time operating in Ukraine's east and south. Ukraine's armed forces said they succeeded in causing high enemy losses on the first day of fighting, including destroying 30 tanks, up to 130 armored vehicles, 7 aircraft, and 6 helicopters. So Russia is taking an absolute beating in this, but they're still pushing forward. They're just able to throw and throw and throw until they get what they want. Dang. Aiden says, I think some people are moving to Switzerland because of the war. Oh, everybody who can escape is trying. I have, a friend whose family is escaping to Turkey. It's a brutal situation. Old School Kid says this is a very scary situation. Jedi Pierce says it's great that one of the greatest micronational scams has something to say about a war. They don't even believe in micronational warfare. It's absolutely terrible what's happening. I'm sorry to hear your negative opinion of us, but this is exactly why we're talking about it. It's not about us. It's about saying that this war is devastating. It is the example of exactly why war is wrong, because it is an unprovoked attack on an independent people. It is somebody taking someone else's freedom and sovereignty away. Who's pro-war in this situation? Robert says, hey, it's crazy. It's good to see you, Robert, and it is crazy. The Void says, I am in Kiev. Oh, goodness. How are you, The Void? What is happening? Can you tell us more about it? I'm so sorry to hear that you're in such a terrible situation, trapped in the capital city that's actively being taken over. Have you heard any news? Do you know what's going on there? Can you tell us anything? And absolutely stay safe. Please, please, if you can, try to, evacuate your family. Try to get out. I know there are a lot of limitations on what you can do at this point, but it's horrible. Old School Kid says, then you could tell us how it's like. Absolutely. Please keep us updated, The Void. Please let us know what you're doing, and please be safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Robert says, Russia is preparing a 50,000 strong attack on Kiev. Absolutely. The Void, please, please be careful. Please watch yourself. Old School Kid says, oh no. The Void says, I don't really know what's going on, but there's a lot of gunfire. Luckily, I live rurally away from the city a bit. In case there are, military pushes toward where you live, is there a place you can bunker down at? Is there a place you can hide? Is there a place that your family has an evacuation plan to? What are your options? Robert says, well, two bombs struck Kiev, 24 casualties. Oh, goodness. Okay. Hold on. We're continuing to learn more about this situation. Thank you so much, The Void, for being here and giving us some information on this situation. I am so sorry for the awful nature of this war and what is happening to you and the rest of the Ukrainian people. Um, Okay, the Russian leaders have shown no sign of de-escalating. His troops have begun bombarding Kyiv in earnest, likely in advance of a larger ground invasion, even as President Joe Biden on Thursday announced a second, larger sanctions package on Russia, including export blocks on technology, limits on Russia's ability to finance and grow its military and aerospace sector, and sanctions targeting Russian banks, including VTB, elites, and Putin's inner circle. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told ABC News Thursday evening that he's, quote, convinced Russia will target Kyiv. The U.S. has indicated that the Kremlin could potentially depose Ukraine's democratically elected government and replace it with a puppet regime, which it seems like is happening. Old School Kid says, okay, Void, stay safe and try to leave if possible. The Void says, so far we are only in our basement and have nowhere else to go. Oh my god. Um, please be careful. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough supplies to last you in case this invasion is several days long? What? Oh gosh, that situation is just incomprehensible to me. I don't know what to say other than I'm so sorry, and I wish you and your family the best. I'm thinking of you, and I legitimately hope you all are okay. Um, please do whatever you can to stay safe. I know that's obvious, but my God, that's astounding. Um, have you been able to get all of your family members? Is everyone accounted for? Do you have anybody that's lost? Do you have anybody that you're not sure of where they are? Have you been able to contact other family members, other friends? Max says hello. Robert says Russia took over Chernobyl a few hours ago, so they are preparing to shut down the power and use some computer viruses. Goodness. John says I will keep you all in my prayers. Absolutely. Thank you, John, for your support of all the people in Russia, and especially our friend the Void in Kiev. Max says, oh yeah, I'm reading about all the situation in the New York Times. Old School says, I hope that the Void will stay safe and not die. Agreed. It's very horrible. It's scary to see, and I'm so sorry that you're in this situation. I hope to talk to you very soon, hopefully after this initial fighting has died down. I hope we are able to join in another live stream where things are certainly more happy, or at very least are not as violent as they are right now. I hope I can hear more about you in the future and know that you're doing well and know that your family's doing well, know that you're able to prosper. The Void says, yes, we have stored some food and water. The Void, please reach out to me at any point. Aeternianempire@gmail.com on our Discord. Just keep me updated whenever you can. After this live stream is over, please let me know that you're doing okay. I'm legitimately very concerned about you. I hope you're okay. And I want to give people updates. I'm sure everybody who's watching right now wants to know that you're going to be okay and wants to hear from you. So please keep us updated. Please find a way to reach out to me. If you can give me an email address, I'll email it. Just please let me know. Matt says, check out at Turtley News on Twitter. So far, they've made true statements on what's going on in Ukraine. So if you want to learn more about it, absolutely, I'll be going check that out as well. And again, the Void, please, if you can give me any contact information for you, I would love to reach out. If you can reach out to us, please, aeternianempire@gmail.com. Robert GC says Ukraine is actually fighting this time, unlike 2014 in the 2 Weeks War. It's brutal. It's not just fighting; it's an attempt to survive. Um, Rich says you're in my thoughts, fellow human. Absolutely. No matter your views of this, this is a person who's dealing with this. Um, Old School Kid says, okay, try to ration the food as much as possible. The Void says, I'm not really sure where my brother is. He's a part of the military. Goodness. I certainly, your brother as well is in my thoughts. I hope everything is okay with you and with him as well. I hope that very soon you can hear back from him. I know more and more people are getting drafted. I know potentially he is on the front lines right now, and we can all imagine the horrors of that situation. So thank you so much for your sacrifice and for your brother's sacrifice in just attempting to protect your homeland, attempting to fight for democratic freedom and independence. All of us as micronations and all of us around the world who want democracy and independence are actively supporting you and watching the struggle that's going on right now. You are all fighting on our behalf, and that should be known. Rich says Agenda Free News is also a pretty great source. He just finished a live stream, and I just saw you were live and joined. Thank you, Rich. It means a lot. Tiffany's covering my mouth and nose so that I can't breathe. Yeah. We have people actively in Kiev, in the capital of Ukraine, that are talking to us while they're getting bombed.
That's crazy.
This is it's a really scary situation. Old School says. Yes.
So, I got everything to work. I figured it out by myself. I'm having to do an integral of a really long thingy, and it won't give me the right answer.
Have you emailed your instructor?
I was wondering if you could check my math.
I can. Can you give me a few minutes to learn numbers? I appreciate
I'm
it.
not
I just
trying
want
to
to make
end
sure.
it. I need
understand.
someone who knows the math to check it, and you're the only one who knows, or at least is still actively using integrals and stuff like that. So
Give me just 1 second. I want to make sure that if the Void is still on, that I can talk to him. Everybody, I appreciate you staying on and hanging out with us for a little bit. This is, again, a very scary situation. Aiden says, Shukomius uploads some Ukrainian war footage. Absolutely. Just everybody that you can. I know Sean Penn right now is actively filming a documentary down on the ground there. Robert says, Ukraine won the Battle of Suma University and Hostel Airport along with Chernivtsi, but the Russians just moved west towards Kiev after every defeat. They aren't giving up. Absolutely. Old School says that's good. It's good that they're pushing the Russians and trying to stop them, but the Ukrainian military just does not have enough manpower to fully combat the Russian military. They can just go around them and move beyond them, even if they're losing. Max says, no one should go through what Ukrainian people are going through. My thoughts and prayers are with the people of Ukraine. Absolutely the same here. This is a devastating situation for anyone involved. Rich says, I think that if they fortify in the forest near Dnieper River, they could successfully defend with their current forces. If they, Ukraine, want to retreat, that is. It's a very scary situation, though, because anywhere that they retreat to, the rest of the army the rest of the Russian military can surround them and can pincer them. It's a no-win situation almost. They're just trying to do everything they can to survive. They can win every battle and still lose the war very easily, and with very high likelihood that will happen. Federal Republic of Ohio says, I'm also watching Kiev live, and it looks like the power had went out. Oh, goodness. Oh, no. Okay, so potentially we lost... It looks like we might have lost the Void. I certainly hope we haven't. My thoughts are with you, and I hope that we can regain contact with them at some point soon. If anybody, I know this is a long shot, but if anybody happens to know them or is able to contact them in any way, please let us know. If there's any way that I can, contact them or figure that out through the YouTube comments, if there's any way that I can reach out to their account on YouTube, please let me know, because over the next few days I would really love to be able to hear from them and just know that that person is alive, to know that their family is okay. This is, oh goodness, this is absolutely scary. Um, Old school kid says this is an impossible situation, not suppressed. Agreed. Rich says backup power in Kiev is turned on, fountains and some lights. Uh, Midan Square. Midan Square. Oh my goodness. So, Federal Republic of Ohio says, okay, good. Yeah, so they have like emergency power on right now, but the city is absolutely getting devastated. They, people there cannot know what's going on. It has to be mass panic, and I don't know what to make of our friend the Void not responding anymore. I certainly hope that his family, her family, is okay, is safe, and I hope we can hear from them again very soon. Again, I am just, I have almost no words for what's happening right now, and it's a very surreal experience to know that on the, hey, okay, so the Void is back. Um, they're speaking in Slavic to in Russian to one of our other commenters who was supporting Russia right now, and this must be terrible for them to watch. Okay, the Void is okay. We're glad to see our friend the Void is okay and is doing well. Please keep us updated, the Void. Again, please email me at aeternianempire@gmail.com. AETERNIANEMPIRE.com at gmail.com. Please reach out if you can at all in the next few days. I just want to hear from you. I want to know you're okay, and I know that all of our viewers will want to know that as well. I'll let you guys know if I hear anything from them. Um, um, the pro Russian person keeps like putting like pig stuff. It's really weird and it's offensive. John Hancock says Demetrius is very rude. Oh, so that's the person's name, Demetrius. Got you. Okay, makes sense. I appreciate you sharing that, John. Thank you very much. Again, they are very rude, especially for somebody who's actively being just attacked. Their homes, their ooh, the Void says pig is a slur. I will contact. Thank you very much. Again, please do. Please reach out, the Void. And it absolutely is. It's ridiculous and shameful that somebody would know that on the other side of this screen there is somebody watching this who's being attacked by their own countrymen. That's being, uh, you know, uh, their family, their lives are being torn upside down, and they're helpless to it. And you're gonna insult that person, and you're gonna call them a pig because they're not in the safety of their home, laughing and you know, you know, insulting people over the internet that they're trying to survive with their family. That they happen to be able to reach out to the same live stream as you in the midst of an emergency situation. Shame on you. Even if you support Russia and their decisions, how can you look at someone who is actively the person suffering under the weight of this war, a civilian, and to mock them, to mock death and destruction? It's almost inhuman. What's the matter with you? Robert says, "Wow, I imagine Russia will annex everything east of Dnieper in a few months. Probably within a few hours. This is getting intense." EA says hello from Kiev. We have two people from Kiev now. It's good to see everyone. How are you, EA? What part of Kiev are you in? As well, uh, are you in a part where the power went out? I know people were telling me the power went out recently. Please let me know, and please help us reach out to more people in the city so that we can figure out what is happening. We have 11 viewers right now, 14 likes. If you guys can continue to support the stream and like, so that we can get more viewers like the Void and like EA who are from Kiev, actively talking to us, actively telling us what's happening in the city. And I hope, EA, your family is okay. Are you secured? Are you in a bunker? Are you underground? Are you in your home? What's happening? Do you have contact with everybody that you need to? Is your family okay? Please, please let us know that you're doing well. This is Absolutely a terrifying situation. Um, uh, Federal Republic of Ohio says, "Hey EA, warning! There's a Russian nationalist in the chat." Yes, that's a difficulty that we've been experiencing already with our friend the Void, who's also in Kiev on the outskirts, who's having to deal with all this. Just people being ridiculous and slurring. It's a shame. Um, yeah, yep. Um, See, Demetrius, absolutely shameful. You should be ashamed of yourself for what you're doing right now, bullying people in the chat. I'm gonna see if can I can I ban people? Can I? I'm gonna put them in timeout. Yep. Okay. So yeah, I'm actively trying to do that. Okay. So I think I put them in timeout. Yep. I did. I deleted their thing and I put them in timeout. Excuse me, everybody, for that absolutely horrific person coming in. I wanted to hear their opinions. I wanted to hear their thoughts. But at this point, they're just spitting slurs, being rude to people who are absolutely suffering. Shame on them. I hope you are okay, EA. I hope you are okay, The Void. Again, EA as well, please reach out to me. Aeternianempire at gmail.com. Aeter Nian EMPIRE uh, at gmail.com. If you can reach out, please do. I want to make sure that you and your families are safe, and I want to keep people updated with what's happening with you over the next few days. I know there are people's lives who are being lost right now, and I'm sure everybody will want to be updated and to know that you all are okay, and that our friends in the chat can come back and hang out with us on a more positive note in the future. This is scary, and we all have you in our thoughts and prayers. Please, please know that. Reichenland said that he will stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people, and that's one thing that people have to understand. Micronationalists in general want to stand behind Ukraine and do stand behind Ukraine. The Ukrainian people right now are fighting for democracy, are fighting for independence, are fighting for their own sovereignty, which is something that micronationalists hold near and dear to their hearts. I don't see how a micronationalist could ever support the Russian position in this situation. Um, Federal Republic of Ohio says, there we go. I will go on my Vistern account. Thank you, Aiden. EA says, me and my friend are in a basement right now. We're fine. Again, if you can, please reach out. Let us know that you're okay. EA, if there's some way that I can contact you, I will. If you can let me know, but if you can reach out at all, Aeternianempire at gmail.com. Aeter Nian Empire at gmail.com. You can reach out to us and just let us know that you're okay over the next few days. EA says, me and my friend are in a basement right now and we're fine. It's good to hear that. I hope you're okay. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? Do you have supplies to last you in case this does happen for a few days? Max says, I'm scared and I'm not even Ukrainian. Agreed. This is horrifying. This is horrifying to watch two other human beings, to know that this is happening just across the screen from you, to know that there are people watching this same live stream, who are dealing with this in real time. Bombs over their head, tanks rolling in. This is scary. EA, I know this is scary for you, and I can't even begin to imagine this. You are dealing with something that 99% of the world population has never even had to come close to experiencing. And I am so sorry that you were having to. It's a shame. It's a shame, and the world will remember this. I assure you. All micronationalists will remember this, and you and all of your people are actively suffering and struggling for something that we all want, and we all recognize that you are right now in the front lines of a much larger ideological fight that you should not even have to be involved in. Vistern says message retracted and then says stay safe. Vistern said it at the wrong timing, stay safe, agreed. John says, I must make my exodus now. You are all in my prayers. May God defend Ukraine. Agreed. It's good to see you, John Hancock. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And again, we're going to try and keep everybody updated on the situation as best we can. FRO says, seems like Kiev proper is fine. Seems they're defending it. Agreed, but these troops are getting closer and closer. It seems like it's only a matter of time now, and I'm very worried. Please keep us updated. EA says, yes, we have stocked up with 12 packs of water. Good. I'm glad you have stuff for several days. I know rationing it is going to be hard, you know, our modern consumption, we want to be able to just eat and drink as we please, but rationing stuff is very important in a time like this. I'm sure your family knows much better than I do about that and knows what you need to do to stay okay and safe. But please be careful and keep us updated with what's happening. Hashtag Stand With Ukraine says, it's a sad situation and I can only pray for the people of Ukraine are okay. Absolutely. There are people in the chat right now, both our friends EA and The Void are in the chat who are talking to us about the situation directly in Kiev. Again, this is something that's terrible, it's scary, and we're actively trying to get as much information from them as possible. Again, if anybody can reach out to us, um, who is in Kiev or anywhere around there, anybody in Ukraine, anybody near Ukraine with family in Ukraine, Aeternianempire@gmail.com, AETERNIAN EMPIRE@gmail.com. Please let us know you're okay. EA says we will attempt to leave if we can find a way out. Agreed. I hope you escape. I hope you do well. And please just protect yourself. Please be safe. Dan the Man says, I am likely to be sent to Ukraine to fight. Oh, goodness. Dan, are you in the military? Talk to us. Let us know what's happening. Federal Republics of Ohio says, you Ukrainians have a heart and voice of a lion. You guys have made a mark on Russia. Russia has lost more than Ukraine. Keep fighting. Yes. FRO, please stand with Ukraine. Let's absolutely continue to show 100% full support. Stand with Ukraine says, where do you live, Dan the Man? Dan says, Moscow. Dan, what is your take on this situation? Being someone who is Russian, let us know what your thoughts are. We had a Russian nationalist in the chat earlier who's very pro what Russia is doing, but so much so that they were sending slurs and hate speech to people who are actively under this. Just let us know your thoughts. We want to learn, we want to understand the people who are involved in this, not the governments, not the people who are playing at war and making these decisions for thousands and thousands and millions of people, but the people who are actually going to suffer through it, the people who are actually dealing with it. Please let us know your thoughts. This is a moment in history that will not be forgotten. Stand with Ukraine, says Dan the Man. EA says, I am so sorry you feel that way. You must be very sad inside knowing that you are defending the worst people right now. Agreed. They reached out to, I think it was Demetrius, is maybe how you say that. They said, EA said, Demetrius, I'm so sorry you feel that way. You must be very sad inside knowing you are defending the worst people right now. The bravery in that statement, though, the absolute strength in that statement, to say, as you're being bombed, like, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry that you have to lash out in your words and attack me while you're maybe thousands of miles in the other direction, safe in your home, that you have to call me out who's actively getting bombed and attacked. Shame on the people who are insulting you and who are lashing slurs at you, EA and the Void. This is ridiculous, and they should be ashamed of themselves. I have put that user in timeout. If they continue to do it, let me know, and I'm going to ban them again. I'm going to put them in timeout. I'm going to report them. It's shameful. They should not be doing that, and it's almost inhuman to fathom. The fact that you can have pity for those people, the fact that you are not fuming, is such a testament to your humanity and the honor and the dignity which you have in your heart, and which your parents raised you with, and which your family has. Incredible. You are 30 times the person that is, that person is. You shouldn't be called the same thing. It's a shame. Robert says, we mean the battles in Ukraine for Russia too. Interesting. Stand with Ukraine. Thank you for updating us, Robert. Stand with Ukraine says, do you agree with the war in Ukraine? Yeah, that's what we're trying to ask. That's what we're trying to ask Dan. Rich says, just heard an explosion in the Maidan Square, Kiev stream. Oh, goodness. 2 to be exact. Thank you, Rich. Thank you for updating us. Also, we have 13 viewers, 15 likes right now. Please do go ahead and like the stream. Again, we're trying to get this to more people who are near the area. We already have, again, 2 people who are actively in Kiev right now talking to us via the comments. We also, both EA and The Void, we also have somebody who is in Moscow, who's apparently a part of the military, who's saying they may get brought to fight in Ukraine. We're trying to learn more about the situation and hear from the people who are actively dealing with this conflict, what is happening, about what's happening. Robert says, thank you very much for liking. Robert says, but if Russia occupies a power plant and entrance into the country via water and you fighting over a university, I'm confused on your statement there, Robert. But if Russia occupies a power plant and an entrance into the country via water, and you're fighting over a university, I'm confused. I don't understand. Um, Stand with Ukraine says, oh no, that's not good. Terminated says, hi, Onyx. Terminated says, it's been a while. Terminated said, me equals Ukraine. What do you mean by that, Onyx? I hope you're okay and I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. Official Vistern says, question marks. Stand with Ukraine says, stand with Ukraine. Agreed. Onyx says, I sympathize with Ukraine. Thank you, Onyx. I think we all do right now. Dan the Man says, I do not care about the war. I just want peace. I think that's what everybody wants right now. I think we just want these human suffering and casualties to stop. And I am so thankful to hear you say that, Dan. This is a scary situation for everybody involved. Whether you're, the people fighting on the Russian side are getting killed, their friends, their families. Well, not their families necessarily, but their friends, their comrades right next to them are getting murdered because of a war that's being put on by wealthy elites in that country. It's a shame. The same thing in Kiev, where there are families being bombarded, where there are people who are actively having to fight, who are in the reserves in their military, who are now getting up and drafted just to survive. It's rough. It's very scary. Um, SkyPie 5K says, oh damn, at Rich Rock. Viston says, I got confused. Max says, stand with Ukraine. Agreed, stand with Ukraine, everybody. Dan says, he called people pig. He did. He was absolutely being offensive and throwing out slurs. It's shameful. Again, I put that user in timeout. If they come back, I'm going to try and ban them and block them, but it's absolutely abhorrent. The people who are actively dealing with this, EA, just, EA and the Void both were just saying that that's shameful and had such honor and dignity with their response, saying, EA said, I feel bad for you, that you must be so sad as to be, supporting these people who are actively attacking just civilian populations. This is scary. I'm so proud to be able to have people like EA and the Void, and even you, Dan, in the chat with us. People who are reasonable, who are sane, and who are watching the situation from the front lines of it. Stan with Ukraine says, this is the most sad situation. I wish peace could return to Ukraine. We all do, absolutely. This is scary, and I certainly wish everybody the best. Please stay safe. Everybody who is there, please put your head down, do what you can to try to survive. Please make sure that you have contact with all of your family, all of your friends, everybody you can reach out to. And please continue to update us and let us know that you are safe and that you are okay. Again, I'm actively refreshing my email right now just to see if anybody has reached out to us. EA, if you can reach out to us, please do. Aeternianempire@gmail.com. AETER NIANEMPIRE@gmail.com. The same thing with you, the Void. Please let us know. Rich says, heard Jet's in the live stream as well. I would like to talk to Jet as well. I need to message him back. He messaged me earlier today, I believe, if not yesterday. I need to reach out. I hope he's doing well, and I've been thinking about him. But I've just been blown away by this situation. I'm still doing the Christina interview edit. There's a number of things that I've been working on that have kept me busy, but this was something that I just couldn't not talk about right now. I was blown away when I saw everything that was happening over last night and today. I wanted to talk about it. Robert says, in the 2 weeks war, Russia versus Crimea, the Crimeans surrendered and thought Russians were liberators. Rich says, they sound like they went over the city. Oh, goodness. Ukraine, Stand With Ukraine says, on all social media platforms, type Stand With Ukraine. Agreed. Dan says, I will get murdered if I do that. Dan, it's absolutely a scary situation. That's the issue right now, is that I imagine in Russia it's so incredibly polarizing to stand up against what is happening right now. I know you say you just want peace, and I respect that. I know that the situation to some extent limits what you can do as well, and it must be rough to not be able to support what your country is doing right now because of just the inhumane nature of it. Everybody wants peace, and I don't see a peaceful end to the situation, unfortunately. I know it is not your fight, and I know that you do not want it, and I respect that from you, and I recognize that in you. Terminated Onyx says stand with Ukraine. Stand with Ukraine says message retracted. Gildar says Russia's doing the same thing they did in Georgia and in South Ossetia and Abkhazia region. Agreed. EA gave us an update. It said just heard some explosions outside a couple seconds ago. I will try to stay on as long as I can to inform you. Thank you very much, EA. Please do. And again, if you have the ability at all, later on when you get a chance, please email us at turninganempire@gmail.com. Please reach out to us on Discord any way that you can. We have a website. You can leave us a message on our website. Just let us know that you are okay in the next few days. Let us know that your family's safe, that you're safe. Give us updates because we want to know what's happening and that you are okay. Everybody here, I know next time I get on a live stream is going to ask about you all. And I want to be able to tell them that you're okay and that you're doing well. This is scary for me, and I'm not even involved, but just knowing that there are other people across the screen who are dealing with this. Please keep us updated. Thank you so much for what you're doing right now, for us and just for yourself and for your family. Terminated Onyx says, but this time it's Donetsk and Luhansk. Yep. Stay with Ukraine says, okay, thank you so much. Dan says, there's many Russian gangs in Moscow pushing people to join the military and threatening their families. Oh my God. Do you feel like that has a connection to the government there? Do you feel like that's, an intentional move to try and rile support for this? Are there any people fighting back? Is there, what's the alternative in this situation? Is there any way to prevent this? Is there any way to, it's just so institutional. That's scary. That's scary. Are you already in the military, Dan, or are you feeling forced to sign up? Talk to us. Talk to us about the situation. Robert says they say Q, huge Russian army group, like 20 miles away. Oh my gosh. Terminated Onyx says, oh God. Gildar Heel says Russia told Ukraine not to attack the breakaway region. They attacked them anyway, so the same thing happened in Georgia will happen in Ukraine. Robert says, well, China flew a military jet over the Taiwan exclusion zone. World War III might be starting. I told you, everybody's pushing buttons. Everybody's pushing buttons right now. This may be in everybody's backyard a lot sooner than we think. Standing with Ukraine said this is the most sad situation. Agreed. Rich says it's morning in Kiev. It's cloudy. It's good to hear that at least the sun is rising, even still in a tragic situation. I wish everybody the best. I hope everybody's okay, and I hope that we can please keep updated with everybody. Terminated Onyx says, well, good morning, Rich. Terminated Onyx says, midnight for me in the U.S. Agreed, midnight here. Stand with Ukraine says, it's 11:51 right now for me in the U.S. Agreed. Skypie says, same. Terminated says, yeah, about. Stand with Ukraine says, stand with Ukraine. EA says, okay, I will. Thank you so much, EA. Please reach out. We appreciate it. Please be safe. Please take care of your family and your friends. Huskaria says, I have to go, but I'm happy you are doing the stream. Thank you so much, Huskaria. Please keep updated with us in our Discord, and we want to reach out to you as well in the future. Ukraine says, Stand with Ukraine says, thank you, EA. Again, thank you to EA, to The Void, to everybody who's been participating, to Dan the Man. Thank you all so much for giving your voice and updating us and lending us your ear in this conversation and lending us your voice in this conversation, because we are not there. We cannot say what exactly is happening and how this is affecting people, but you can give us your voice. We can project it. We can let people know what's happening, but we are humbled and honored to have you as guests. Okay, so Rich says the sun is rising in Kiev in the stream. Jets can be heard still. Goodness. Federal Republic of Ohio says, I might be across the street, but but I feel for you. I wish I can do everything to stop Russia. Sadly, I'm bound to being human. And I think that's how the rest of us feel. Again, now that we have this modern technology, we can watch this tragedy in live view, just watching the horror. Dan says it's probably connected to the government and also racist groups. I'm already in the military because Russian conscription. Fair enough, yeah. Dan, I'm so sorry that you're having to deal with this as well. Knowing that you are someone who is not actually interested in this fight and doesn't want it and wants peace, to know that you will have to be separated from your family potentially and to go and fight in a war that you don't support in order to survive yourself, it shows the brutality of this situation. And I'm so sorry. All I can say is I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the world is like this. I'm sorry that this is what things are leading to. I'm sorry that people are greedy and that this is happening because of this geopolitical situation that keeps getting pushed closer and closer to a knife edge for some ideological superiority. It's a shame. It's not human. It's not moral. It's not okay. And we have to remember that. Every time something like this is going to happen in the future, we have to remember what's happening right now. We have to have it burned in to know that people died over this, that people are dying actively, that potentially people on the stream, people who are a part of this conversation with us, could not be here. This is a threat to them. We have to know that this has to change. Anytime a future government is going into a situation like this, whether it's the United States justifying their actions in other countries, whether it's Russia justifying their actions, whether it's China, the sovereignty and independence of people, their safety, their security, their families must come first before our ability and interest in intervening in their lives and who they are as people. Dan says, I'm sorry for you. Stan with Ukraine says, I'm sorry for you, Dan. Dan says, thank you. Gildar says, you believe they are forcing people to join the military in Russia? Come on. Uh, Potentially. Dan says, their conscription is for all males 18 years old. Stan with Ukraine says, no. Gildar says, we have to sign up for the draft in the U.S. when we reach 18 as well. Stan with Ukraine says, no, you don't. You do, in the selective service is absolutely a thing that exists. You're not actively drafted into the military when you do, but you do have to be a part of the selective service. You have to register as a U.S. citizen. Federal Republic of Ohio says, well, I'm forbidden from the draft. I'm a single child and a male. Yeah, absolutely. Gildar's selective service system. Federal Republic of Ohio says, my father only had me and a girl who died as in 2018. I'm so sorry to hear that, Federal Republic of Ohio. That's horrible. I hope everything's okay with you, and I'm sorry to hear about the passing of your sister. Dan says, at Gadar here, there is a mandatory service. If there is a war or peace, it doesn't matter. Absolutely. So everybody who's a male over the age of 18 is just in some way connected to the Russian military. That's scary. That's rough. Federal Republic of Ohio says, well, half sister. Even still, that's horrible. All my siblings are half brothers and sisters, and I still care about them very deeply. It doesn't matter. It still hurts, flesh and blood, to lose somebody. It's brutal. Dan says yes. I sympathize for everybody. This is probably the worst timing because I'm probably gonna have to leave soon. But I do want to tell everybody that I'm thinking of you. For Dan the Man, again, you as well, please keep me updated. Email me, aeternianempire@gmail.com. If you get drafted, if you have to go to war, please let us know. Please keep us updated any way you can. We want to understand what's happening. We want to learn from this situation, and we want to use it to speak out against it. If you cannot speak out against it, we will speak out on your behalf. Dan says, luckily Putin will end compulsory service in the future, he said in 2019. Hopefully so. It seems right now, though, there may be fighting, a significant amount of fighting beforehand. Please keep us updated, Dan. Please keep us updated, EA. Please keep us updated, The Void. Let us know what's happening, and I will keep updated. Selective service says doesn't mean you have to be conscripted. It means that if there is a draft in the United States, that you can be conscripted. Uh, free. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that, but it looks like German. Something in German potentially says, "Uh-oh, sticky Russia." It's a tough situation right now. It's hard. I know everybody's leaving. I appreciate everybody spending time here. Staying with Ukraine says, I'm going now. It's good to see you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for spending time. I think I'm going to be leaving as well. But again, I want everybody to know that I'm thinking of you, that I support you, that I want to listen and that I want to understand. And the Empire of Aeternia supports you and knows the human struggle of this war. I will keep updates on this channel. I may do another live stream as things continue and progress. Anybody who wants to, I've told everybody who's already actively a part of this situation to please email me, but anybody who has updates, things they want me to check out, things that they want me to live stream about this topic or any other, please email me at eternianempire@gmail.com because we need to hear about this. We need to keep having this discussion so that people don't forget what is happening here. So that people know to continue to speak out. Dan says you sound like a cowboy movie. Well, yeehaw, Dan. Yeehaw. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. Does that sound like a cowboy movie? I know I to you probably have a significant southern accent and southern drawl. Um, but for the people around me, I'm in Alabama in the United States, so I have a fairly mild accent according to them. But I can certainly turn it up a little bit and make it sound very much like a cowboy movie for you, Dan. So I hope that at least gets to bring a smile on your face for a little bit while we continue to talk about this silly situation. Sweet home Alabama. Doo 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 doo. Dan, I appreciate having you here. Having your good humor here is nice. Even hearing from somebody who's actively in the Russian Federation, who's seen this go on, and who can at least say that they want peace and that they don't want this is a lot. Thank you for lending your voice to this conversation. Ohio says, I'm hearing jets in the live, but so far no bombs and conflict near downtown. Oh, goodness. Please keep us updated, Ohio. You're in the Discord, I know, so please drop stuff in the Discord to keep us updated. Like I said, I'm probably going to do another live stream in the next few days about this, so please keep updated. Please keep us updated. Gildar says, don't forget all the U.S. invasions of Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, too. That's exactly what I'm saying. When any country decides to continue to do this and to pursue other people's sovereignty and to take claim of it, we have to remember this. This is about the human cost of war in general. This is about watching this suffering, this human tragedy live on camera, and us continuing to fund wars that destroy lives and that kill people for selfish gains. It's a shame. And thank you. Dan says the U.S. invaded Syria. Yes, there was a campaign in Syria, not officially, as in there wasn't it wasn't declared a war, but yes, the U.S. did have military campaigns in Syria. Dan the Man says, why didn't I know that? Because they called it like specific military operations on terrorist insurgencies. Um, Gildar says they have troops in Syria still as we speak. Absolutely. It's a tragic situation again, and it should be spoken out against. We don't support that. They claim it's in the name of protecting American freedom and stopping terrorists, but the bombing of civilians can't be that. We're not doing a good job if that's what we're attempting to do, and we're certainly causing a lot more harm than good. So, this is sad, and I hope we see an end to this situation quickly. One that gives independence and sovereignty to the people who deserve it in Ukraine. Until next time, thank you all so much for supporting us. Thank you all for liking the stream. Thank you all for lending a voice to these people in the comments who have been so gracious as to lend us theirs. And I will see you all next time. Dan says many Russians also want to invade Mongolia. It's just about power. It's just about conflict. EA says, see you. EA, please reach out to us again. Thank you so much for being here. Please reach out to us. Email me, aeternianempire@gmail.com. I'm going to say it one more time. AETERNIANEMPIRE @gmail.com. Rich says, see you. Dan says, goodbye. Max says, I have to go now, but I'm with the Ukrainian people. Agreed. Thank you, Max. Thank you to the Ukrainian people. EA says, I'm going to stay until you end the stream. Okay. I will see you all later, but EA, please reach out again. I'm going to be checking for people's emails. EA says, I already sent you a Gmail. Let me look at it right now. Before we end the stream, I'm going to make sure that I check it. I do not want to miss that. I will read to you guys if I can, what the email says, if it's appropriate for me to, but I want to email this. I'm not going to give out information, but I want to see. Oh gosh, my laptop's dead. Okay. If I do this, is it gonna? Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt. The oh goodness, hold up. EA says I'm hearing the bombs. Oh goodness, they started like a minute ago. I'm sorry to hear that, EA. I did just receive your email. I saw it. I'm trying to get my computer to load right now so that I can read it to everybody. They they just gave us a small update. EA says, how are you getting info this quick? EA, they're watching a live stream actively. So there's a live stream ongoing of the capital, Kiev, right now. That people are paying attention to. So it's my understanding that that's how they're getting this information. Rich says, oh wow. Yes, this is a very scary situation for a lot of people. Rich says, because the live stream in Maiden Square is audio and video too. Everybody's saying there's a live of Kiev right now on YouTube. Rich says, and I have pretty good internet. Master Dionite says, hello. Hello, Master Dionite. It's good to see you. We are watching the absolute horror take place in Ukraine, and we are talking to people who are actively in the middle of it. I am trying to pull up my Gmail right now because our friends in Kiev are giving us updates as we speak. So I'm trying to pull up my Gmail right now so that I can read this off to you all, the parts that I can, because this is an absolutely crazy situation. Again, please like the video if you can to help spread this farther and to connect to more people who are in this situation. Dang! My battery's low on my computer and my computer sucks, so it keeps dying. Oh, goodness. I'm very frustrated. Okay, let's try it again. I keep trying to load this computer. Master D Knight says, hello, I live in the eastern US. Rich says, I just had 2 brownouts, small power cuts. Oh, goodness. Will Games says, hi. Hey, Will, it's good to see you. Again, please like the video we're talking about Ukraine right now and the horror that's going on. If you support Ukraine, if you want to get this out to more people, please do like this video and try to get it to people who are actively in the situation. We have a few people already. Okay, got it. Okay, so EA said, hello, I'm EA. I was born in France by Ukrainian American parents and moved to Ukraine with them. Right now I am 20 and in Kiev. It is 7 o'clock and I am in a basement with my friend Zach. I imagine AM, 7 a.m. I am in a basement with my friend Zach and my family is safe hiding in a public bunker. I am making calls every minute. It is truly horrifying. I will try to make it to France this week. Hope you have fun. Please keep this private with you, but you can tell people that I sent you this message. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. That's actually bad. Okay. Um, so again, I'm not gonna give information out about what I actually was told or what the Gmail is or anything like that. But Aeternia forever. Thank you so much, EA. I appreciate you. I am lucky to have you here supporting Aeternia, and I hope that you are all okay. I am thinking of you. I want to email you. I want to update. Um, I I want to I want to keep updated with you. Thank you so much for your contribution, and I want to keep updated. Thank you. Will Game said, just got a random app downloaded when I didn't do anything. Title was really weird. Agreed. I'm going to go now. It's good to see everybody. But again, thank you all for watching. This is a horrible situation. I can't wait to hear more from our friends in Kiev. Have a good night, everybody. Aeternia forever. Ukraine forever.